Welcome to Looking at Lucasfilm, the podcast with a different perspective on the world of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and all of the other entities that George Lucas, Kathleen Kennedy, David Filoni, and Jon Favreau, as well as the rest of the team at Lucasfilm, have dreamed up over the past 40 years. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host Brian Gaughan and I are recording this week's show on Tuesday, January 10th, 2022. By the way, it's my brother Peter's 62nd birthday today. Yeah, happy birthday, Pete.
Happy birthday, Peter.
Yeah, poor guy's at home recovering from a hernia operation.
Oh, God.
By the way, quick suggestion here in regard to choices coming to birthday cake, Pete. Don't go with a pound cake. Yeah, go with the angel cake or angel food cake. You know, light.
It's lighter.
There we go. If all goes according to plan, folks, this episode will be posted online on Wednesday, January 11th, which is when episode 8 of the Willow limited series at Lucasfilm, different Disney Plus, will debut. Likewise, episode 3 of season 2 of Star Wars Bad Batch. Brian and I will be talking about both of those shows in the second half of today's show, but first, the news. And as always, the news portion of this episode of Looking at Lucasfilm is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience every time, please book online at storybookdestinations.com. Okay, Brian, I wanted to do a quick follow-up on a story we reported on our last Looking at Lucasfilm. It involved legendary conductor and composer John Williams, who will be 91 next month. Wow. On February 8th. There was a video making the rounds that was recently taken at a concert in Italy. Williams is at the podium and is about to treat that audience to some music that he had written for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But before John begins conducting this piece of music, he says, "So, we have just about completed the film. We may have maybe another ending to shoot and to record maybe in a couple of weeks. So, couple of news sites online, this one here included, took that story and ran with it, suggesting that maybe a new ending for Indiana Jones 5 might be in the works." Which I don't. Did you see this, Brian? Where James Mangold, the actual director of Dial of Destiny, took to social media on Sunday, December 18th, to dispute?
Yeah, he fell short of calling John Williams senile, saying he's an old man. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There's not going to be any new ending.
Well, I mean, to be specific.
I'm paraphrasing.
There we go. All right. At that time, Mangold said, "So I took a birthday break from Trolls, but it seems I gotta once again say we're not shooting and never shot any new scenes or alternate endings. Our film is 99% finished, getting rated by the MPAA, and visual effects being completed." So it's sort of like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is still on track to open in theaters June 30th of this year. That's a Friday, by the way. And since the 4th of July is on a Tuesday in 2023, well, that's going to translate into a super long opening weekend.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want. But I'm surprised they're going to do it on a Friday, because movies of this caliber, they usually do on a Wednesday to get the run-up to... or actually, you know, it says it's open on Friday, but it really is going to open on Thursday.
You're not wrong. And sometimes those preview nights are insanely lucrative. But again, that's all part of Disney's playbook. You know, those third-day previews. Likewise, what they've been doing publicity-wise, because face it, nobody markets like the mouse.
Right.
So we had trailer for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was placed in front of most prints of Avatar: The Way of Water.
And I closed my eyes.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm realizing there's an article that came out about how marketing ruined movies. And it's true. There's like with the first Indiana Jones, the first Raiders of the Lost Ark, they showed in the trailer the guy with the sword and Indy shooting him. Well,
Yep.
I was very fortunate to see it at a preview the 2 weeks before it came out, so I was surprised. But nobody else was surprised. And they just give away the best jokes, the best gags, and it gives away sometimes they give away the whole plot. and they show the ending even. So I don't understand what I know the marketing has nothing to do with the people making the film, but still they give away too much in previews sometimes. So I've closed my eyes. I know nothing about it. I've seen the pictures, but I have not seen the preview.
This brings to mind Romancing the Stone had my absolute favorite trailer of all time. Do you ever seen the teaser trailer for this thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it did make me It made me want to see the movie, but yeah.
Oh, well, but again, it's just
the mud thing was the main part of it, right?
Well, no, this version of it's a nasty little hotel room in Central America, and phones ringing in the room, and the door gets pushed open, and it's a little sweaty Danny DeVito in a white hat and a white suit, and he picks up the phone and Ira, shut up, I'm trying to get the. And the thing he describes, just this quick Reader's Digest version of the movie. I'm chasing the author, and he's cooked up with this guy, and there's crocodiles, and there's swinging, and there's mud, and it's like Ira, I'm done, I'm leaving. It's like, and Ira, that on the phone is like, no, you got to go back, you got to go get him, and it's like, oh. And the thing is that the trailer actually ends with Danny DeVito. It's like saying in the phone, all right, Ira, I'll go back, I'll go get him, and slams the phone down, and then he turns and looks straight into the camera, but this time you're going with me. And it was one of these things where it's like, I'm there. I mean, and it did exactly what you're talking about. It showed a number of fun clips from the film, but at the same time, it just gave you the style, it just gave you the tone, it just gave you the sense of...
Well, it gave you a new story, too. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Hitchcock did that a lot with his previews for his movies, and they were hilarious.
That's true. So where was this article about marketing ruining movies?
It was an Instagram thing. I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but it talks a lot about, there are some films, I forget exactly, but they would just show the ending in the preview, and it was just like, nah.
Okay.
Well, but I'll find it, and then we can maybe talk about it next time or down the line, because I love marketing. I love marketing so much that I will buy a toy and I'll keep it in the just to see what's in the background and the way it is. I don't open my toys not because of a collection value, because I just love the whole marketing aspect of things. But when it comes to films, I think they give away too much.
And when you think about today's media landscape and just trying to convince people to go see it, yeah. Well, in fact, I was just hearing about there's the brand new Some Like It Hot, the musical that just opened on Broadway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's gotten killer reviews. I mean, mind you, it's the second version of Some Like It Hot. There was the wonderful version that was done, I want to say, in '72 with Bobby Morse and Tony Roberts. And it's really struggling at the box office right now because a lot of people in the 3 or so years that Broadway was shut down because of the pandemic have fallen out of the going to the theater habit. And we were just talking off air about how wonderful Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was, and a lot of folks were recently talking about, it's kind of the same thing. So many people have now learned that, well, hey, if I wait a couple of weeks, this is going to show up on streaming, so why do I need to go out to the theater? And so conversely, though, if you look at what the job that Disney has done with Avatar: The Way of Water, they pulled it off. They convinced folks that, like, look, this is something you need to see in theaters. In fact, this is something you maybe need to pony up to go see in IMAX 3D, paying top dollar to go to see. So it's been number one at the box office for 4 weekends in a row. It's currently sits at $1.7 billion worldwide, which makes it the 7th highest grossing film of all time. Indy was placed in front of it. So same thing. They're trying to, hey, you came here to see an event film. Be aware that the 5th Indy is coming in June 30th and maybe make plans to go see that. But to pivot to Star Wars and Lucasfilm, do you remember when Disney announced their original plans for the holidays, film-wise? where the idea was that starting in 2022, every holiday season, they were going to toggle back and forth between first there was going to be an Avatar sequel, and then there was going to be a Star Wars film
movie. Yeah, and they were gonna, and that was, and they would own December for the next up to 2075 or something.
Well, I think, as far as I could find when I was doing research for today's show, December of 2028, that's when supposedly Avatar 5 would come out.
5? There's not going to be an Avatar 17 or something?
By the way, have you seen Avatar The Way of Water yet?
Not yet. Have you?
I have not. I
Good.
have not.
So we can, you know what? I was first day seeing the first one, and I was blown away, except in our theater, the blue was either shut off or wasn't working. So we had the film muted when we were watching. Nobody noticed it. And I went outside afterwards and I told I go, you have to check your film caliber, because the blue, whatever shows right now in HD, was missing. And that's the whole thing. They're blue people. So they were gray for the most part. And I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. But when I saw it the second time, I couldn't wait for it to end. Because it was just, once you, with Cameron films, once you've seen it, there's not many surprises afterwards to see it again. Like, we'll talk about Willow later on. And when I first saw Willow's not a great movie. It's a very good film. It's a good film. I saw it 3 times in the theater because I enjoyed it that much. But in Cameron films, I mean, Avatar's good on a second and a third screening, but Titanic is just, maybe because you know the end. I don't know. But I have not seen it yet, but I plan on seeing it in the theater with the 3D goggles, with the Dolby sound and the Dolby screen and the whole thing. I will pay $25 to see it, because I think that's the only way you can see a movie like Avatar.
Well, I have to admit, I'm leaning that way as well. But at the same time, I have to tell you that 3 hour and 15-minute long screening time is one must take that into consideration.
I always do.
Some of our favorite times at the movies, we're sitting in an audience full of people. There is nothing like being in an auditorium surrounded by strangers and you having that communal reaction, whether it's Roy Scheider, shoveling the chum over the side of the orca. Why don't you come down here and rah! Just to remember what it was like to be in the audience and have that jump scare, or for that matter, to be watching the original New Hope and it's just I have you now.
And cheering, yeah, exactly.
Only a George Lucas, who was such a fan of World War II films, the whole notion of, of course you dive out of the sun. That's the blind spot.
Well, it's so funny that you should say that, because when I get into films, I really get into movies. And I know there are other people in the theater that would like to get into too. So I'm thinking maybe Infinity Wars, there are a bunch of scenes where you just want to clap. The first one being Iron Man seeing Captain Marvel. And when I first saw it, I can't help it. And my kids are grabbing me, but I just started clapping. And as soon as I started clapping, other people started clapping, to where you had the whole theater clapping. And, most people go into a theater and they treat it like, this is a sacred place. And yes, you don't talk, you don't use your phones, but you can react to the movies. But a lot of people sit on their hands because they're afraid that somebody's going to do something. But as soon as one person does it, we're all sheeple for the most part. But as soon as one person does it, then everybody wants to get involved, because scenes like that, like, you're right, they just burst out of your chest. You sit there and you're just going, this is why I go to movies.
Nancy and I will sit at home. In fact, Brian was actually our family consultant when we went to upgrade our flat screen of those, and gave us a lot of good advice about what to get and how to set it up and so on and so forth.
Had to change your life?
Nancy's definitely enjoying it.
Seeing those Hallmark films? Oh my gosh.
Okay, but we now, when we watch basically all television, we have closed captioning on.
Yeah.
We kind of started doing it with some of the shows coming out of the UK, and then it just sort of stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's the thing. I like being able to sit in my own house and watch a film, and then when nature calls, I can literally pause the film with its closed captioning, and I can go off and take care of what I need to take care of, and then come back or stop and get a snack. And I just worry that I have actually moved past the point in my life where going to the theater to see a movie is an enjoyable experience.
Yes.
I kind of have sort of now lean into, I kind of like doing this at home.
Do you find yourself when you're watching the movie in a theater and you don't hear something or they mumble or whatever, do you find your hand coming up and like getting ready to pause the screen?
Well,
I did that during Puts in Boots. I'm sitting there going, what do you say? And I went like this. And my wife's looking at me, what are you doing? I'm trying to pause it.
It's interesting you say that, because that's we just found out that Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I think it is available digitally on February 1st, and then the Blu-ray drops on February 8th. Not sure how long after that it shows up on Disney+, but I got to tell you, I blame the theater more than I blame the makers of the movie. But the sound mix was so muddy, in much the same way as,
Right.
you were just telling your Avatar story with the, for whatever reason, the blue gun, so to speak.
That's it. Yeah, the blue gun, yeah.
On the projector wasn't working the way it was supposed to. And it undercut the experience. And Brian and I both worked in theaters. So that makes you very likely at the end of the show, like, for example, Nancy and I went to go see Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. And literally the film ended, and we saw an afternoon matinee, and I said, hey, can I speak with the manager? And it's like, manager came out and just pulled him aside and said, look, I think you need to check the bulb in auditorium number 5, get it to the effect, because that was a ridiculously dim version of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. And it's just sort of, look, I worked as a projectionist. I'm not going to be a jerk about this, but that wasn't a very good movie-going experience. And maybe the bulb is dying today, but the guy like, oh, thank you. Just sort of like, just not I mean, that's the thing. When you work as a projectionist, you just understand that, when you're doing 5 and 6 shows a day at a theater, and you're one of those giant multiplexes with, multiple houses, the projectionist literally walks up, hits the button, looks in, okay, it's properly framed, and moves on to the next set of projectors, because they just have to, right?
And a lot of times nowadays, it's not even a projectionist, it's the manager, because something happened with theaters that they don't have to use.
That's true. That's true.
They don't have to use the union anymore.
Yeah.
So all a guy does is pushes a button, and for the most part, those things, because they're computers now. Mm-hmm. And they take care of themselves, but let's get back to Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars. But there's nothing about next year. There was supposed to be a Star Wars, but are they going to sneak up on us?
I do not know. I mean, what Brian is alluding to is, like, seriously, if you, I want to say as far back as 2019, the Walt Disney Company, and again, you do this, you stick a flag in a date. So with the notion of, you tell your other, the other rival studios, stay away from that date. That's when and more to the point, you want to stay away from that date, because we're going to do an Avatar movie, then we're going to do a Star Wars movie, then we're going to do an Avatar movie. So what Brian is referring to is that originally, December 22nd, 2023, was untitled Star Wars movie number 1. And that's literally how it was put out there. But now, if you go to Disney's schedule for 2023, the last film officially that Disney is bringing into theaters for this calendar year, 2023, is Wish. It's a Walt Disney Animation Studios production. It's pretty significant. It's of course, this is the centennial year for the Walt Disney Company. And the thing about Wish is that supposedly it's a film filled with Easter eggs for all of the Disney animated films.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. But if you pivot to, okay, so what's the Disney company got coming out in December 22nd, 2023? Nothing. There's, at this point, nothing mentioned for that date. And now previously, though, we had the Taika Waititi Star Wars film that was talked about that kind of went into development hell in August of last year. We had the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron movie that was going to happen, got pulled off of the schedule December 17th of last year. And what's kind of interesting is Patty released this statement because James Gunn and folks had decided that her treatment for Wonder Woman 3 needed to be reworked, right? The new heads of DC Film. So Patty, as part of, just sort of people like, oh no, what Patty Jenkins going to do next? And Patty gets on social media to say, look, I originally left Rogue Squadron after a long and productive development process when it became clear that it wouldn't happen soon enough, and I didn't want to delay Wonder Woman 3 any further. When I did, Lucasfilm asked me to consider coming back to Rogue Squadron after Wonder Woman 3, which I was honored to do. So I agreed. They made a new deal with me. In fact, I am still on it, and that project has been in active development ever since. Just to be clear here, she says, I don't know if it will happen or not. We never do until the development process is complete, but I look forward to its potential ahead.
Well, did she say this after Wonder Woman 3 was canceled, or
was
this before?
This was after. And in fact, okay. And the other thing, that I want to stress here, that James Gunn has been nothing but gracious and to the effect of, look, we had meetings on this, you were completely professional, loved working with you. It wasn't where they wanted to go with this character. And but at the same time, they welcomed Patty to, we'll make another run at it, make another try. Now, we also had, in the same window of time, Rian Johnson, who was out doing publicity for A Glass Onion, which of course was the sequel to Knives Out, of course got asked about Star Wars. And he starts off with said, I have talked with Kathy about doing a new Star Wars movie, and we're still talking about it. Mind you, I owe Netflix another Knives Out sequel, so I have to get that film done first. But it's entirely a matter of scheduling. But he then goes on to say, look, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't get to make another Star Wars movie. But I would be sad. I love that world. I love the people. I love Star Wars fans. I love the passion of how they engage in it. That there's nothing like telling a story in this world and then experiencing people truly connecting to it and letting you know that. It's extraordinary. So what's interesting is you have these two people who we had initially counted out, who, now wait a minute, they're still interested in making Star Wars movies, or Lucasfilm is interested in them making Star Wars movies. But then there's this Damon Lindelof thing.
Yeah.
Now, what do you know about this one?
Well, the only thing I know is that Damon, about a month ago in November, maybe it was October, that he came up when they were dropping all the other Star Wars projects, and he came up and says, "Hey, I have one. I've been working on it with this brand new writer who's never done anything before, but I'm all ready. We got a director and everything, so we're ready to go." And it was like people going, Oh, really? We haven't heard anything about it. There was nothing about it. There was no rumors or anything about it. I mean, now there's rumors that Favreau and Filoni have something cooking. So I don't know about that.
The word is that the story for the Damon Lindelof project is set after the event scene in Rise of Skywalker and would supposedly be built around a person of color. Now, John Boyega, who, remember, played Finn in the most recent Star Wars trilogy, revealed on December 31st that he had shot a scene for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, where his character revealed to Rey that Finn felt the Force, was Force sensitive, since he left the First Order back in Episode 7, The Force Awakens. So now you got to wonder, is this the idea that Lindelof
that would be really cool. I mean, there's something they should have done a long time ago. As soon as he woke up from his little coma, he should have had signs of being Force sensitive. And that's where they dropped the ball. And this would be great because he would run with it.
Okay, August of last year, Boyega is making an appearance on John Fugelsang's Tell Me Everything podcast. That's on SiriusXM, by the way. And to be honest, John really sounded at that point like he was ready to put Star Wars in the rearview mirror. But that, I mean, John is fine with seeing Finn live on as a character in Star Wars games and on TV shows. But as for playing the character again up on the big screen, Boyega went on to say, at this point, I'm cool off it. I mean, I'm good off it. I feel like appearing in episodes 7 through 9 was enough for me. That's the beauty of doing a podcast with two old guys, folks, okay? Brian and I have heard this before.
Well, it was also him. He was very upset about what happened with the scene that was not shown and stuff like that. So he had a little attitude what was going on.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Yeah, and so it was like I'm going to take my ball and go home. Mm-hmm. But as soon as they say, well, we'll inflate it for you, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, but
I'll be back.
Okay. Now, would you like to tell the Sean Connery story?
Sean Connery, of course, his big role was James Bond. Right. And he made, 4 films?
5, actually.
5 films.
The Broccoli's hired him in the early 60s to play 007. And so he does 5 films in rapid succession. I mean, we get Dr. No in 62, or To Russia with Love in 63, Goldfinger 64, Thunderball in 65, and then finally You Only Live Twice in 67. And at this point, Sean is ready to be done. He
wants to do other things. I mean, he wants to do more films like Darby and the Little People.
Well, no. Okay.
Okay, I'm kidding. But no, he wants to do other things. And so he leaves.
That's
and
right.
They get, of course, the George Lazenby, who wasn't he a Australian swimmer or something? Or a model, an underwear model.
James Bond has to look good in a tux. All right, so that's the thing. Oh, yeah.
But he was good. I just saw it recently, and instead of being the saddest James Bond film you've ever seen, he was pretty good at it. And they would have gone on with him doing other things, but he was the one who didn't want to go on.
You're right. He was under contract to do a bunch of James Bonds after that. But the reviews were kind of withering. It was just to the effect of, he's fine, but he's no Sean Connery.
Right.
And the box office kind of reflected that.
But also it had the worst ending that you could. Why would you see this great feel-good movie and then walk out not feeling good? I mean, I remember my brothers and I saw it, and we all came out. I was like 10 maybe, and my brothers were 8 and 5, and we all came out crying.
So Lazenby walks away. The Broccolis start piling up money, and they offered Sean Connery $1.25 million to come back and play James Bond, and that was obscene. Then it was like, oh my God, not just $1 million, over $1 million to come back and play Bond. And he does. He comes back, and
Diamonds Are Forever.
Diamonds Are Forever.
And it is a bizarre movie. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Well, of course you've seen it, but it's really bizarre because it's like this John Hughes character who is up in the Las Vegas tower, and it was really, it wasn't anything like any of the other ones.
Oh! By the way, I just to clarify here, Howard Hughes, not John Hughes. Yeah, the guy who lived high up in a hotel, who made angsty teenager movies that were oddly funny. Yes, So
and he flew planes too.
He did. So
No, but it was really bizarre because it was more of a parody. It was more of, what was the President's Analyst? Wasn't that something like that? Where
like
AT&T,
Flint. It was,
AT&T was in charge of the world, was ruling the world and stuff, and they had to stop it. That's what this one was about. So it didn't really follow the James Bond spy.
And isn't there actually a scene in it where they show them faking the moon landing? I mean, there we go. But on the other hand, it makes a lot of money. The Broccolis want Connery to return to do another Bond film. That would be Live and Let Die. He declines. That's how Roger Moore gets the role and plays Bond. Yep, there we go. Okay.
See, and that's why it works so well, because he went from playing a James Bond type of character to playing James Bond. And he played it like the saint. He brought the humor to it, and he changed the tone.
Oh, no, it became lighter, it became funnier. And these movies made a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, there were a lot of folks who were like, I miss the old James Bond, which brings us to 1983, the year that we had two James Bond movies. We had Octopussy in June of that year, and then October. There we go.
Never again, which I thought was brilliant. Wasn't there a part where his wig was blown off or something? His toupee.
I forget about that.
I got to see it again, but it was basically a remake of
Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt, yeah.
And the way they were able to do that, I guess that was the one film that the Broccolis had not totally locked down all of the film rights.
One of they didn't get Casino Royale either.
There we go. Okay. By the way, there is a Star Wars tie to Never Say Never Again. It was directed by Irvin Kershner, who, of course, did Empire Strikes Back, which many people would argue is the best Star Wars film. But on the other hand, have you ever heard about the Roger Moore cameo that was supposed to happen in this?
Yes, I did, but I think you can tell it better than I can.
How did you hear about it?
Octopussy first came out, and just a little side thing. I went to see it in Westwood at the Avco, and I went by myself. I'm coming out of the theater, and it's the first time. And then there were a bunch of people carrying candles on a protest march, and it was the first time I heard about AIDS. Was this 1983 83, and then I would read Variety, I would read Hollywood Reporter. I read all these magazines, and I think it was in one of them that they told about this scene that was supposed to be in it, and that the Broccolis wouldn't let him do it.
The original end of Never Say Never Again was you had Sean Connery's version of James Bond along with the female lead. I want to say that was Kim Basinger, who played Domino.
Yeah.
They're in a crowded street in New York City, and they're talking. And basically Domino asked James Bond to repeat something in the film, and he's like, oh, never again. Never again. But as he's saying this, he bumps into a guy on the sidewalk who turns, and the guy on the sidewalk is Roger Moore. And Roger Moore smiles and turns to Sean Connery and says, never say never again. And then, just steps back into the crowd and disappears. And you have both Kim Basinger and Sean Connery take big and freeze frame, movie over. And again, it would have been a big laugh. It would have been a fun moment. And as you mentioned, the Broccolis, who were so upset about the fact that, Sean Connery was back in the Bond game, and Thunderbolt and Casino Royale were the ones they couldn't, completely lock down. And so they were like, there is no way we are allowing Roger Moore to appear in, Never Say Never Again. And so that idea died on the table. But anyway, to bring this full circle here, we mentioned this because, again, Mr. Boyega, Sean Connery, once upon a time said, oh, no, I've done 5 James Bond movies. I'm done. And then came back and did 2 more. Okay, so again, you've done just 3 Star Wars movies. And more to the point, if what we're hearing about what Damon Lindelof supposedly has in the works, an entire new movie built around Finn, which, I hope this is legit.
Well, I hope it is too. I mean, you know what Lindelof did with Watchmen, and
Yeah.
he showed us something that I never knew about.
Yep.
He showed us a piece of history that I never knew existed, that was buried. Basically, Tulsa, right? It was the
Oh, yeah. Tulsa, Oklahoma, the riots there.
yeah. And what they did, they just basically destroyed a whole community of African Americans. And who knew about this? I mean, we didn't hear about it. And then Lindelof gave it to him. So I think Lindelof will do an amazing job with Boyega. And I think Boyega will want to do this because, come on, where's the representation?
Okay, and just to be clear here, folks, what Brian and I are referring to is the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre,
Right.
and a chapter in American history that got a lot of people very uncomfortable talking about, well worth digging into.
And seeing Watchmen, because they did such an amazing job with showing us what happened from basically an unbiased type of view.
Again, we've shared a lot of information today. Here's the hard reality. We are not going to know what Lucasfilm is doing in regards to the next Star Wars movie, and staring with great interest at that open slot in Disney's schedule, December 22nd, 2023. We are most likely not going to know anything until the Star Wars Celebration Europe, which is being held in London this year at the XL Center from April 7th through the 10th.
So there's nothing before that? There's WonderCon. You don't think they're going to do anything in WonderCon?
I think just because, I mean, face it, the Lucasfilm
you're right.
people...
You're right. They want to get, it's going to be in England, so they want to give those people the best they can.
Conversely, though, I would bet you that given where WonderCon is being held, and I would honestly be surprised if as part of that event, they don't at least talk about season 2 of Bad Batch. In fact, they might at that point be coming up on either the mid-season. I know they're doing 2 episodes in the mid-season, or they might even be coming up on season 2's finale at that point, and put together a panel or at least do a screening. And speaking of Bad Batch, when we get back from this break, Brian and I will talk about what's going on the television side of Lucasfilm.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
We were just talking about WonderCon, which is going to be held at the Orange County Convention Center in Anaheim, California. And what's across the street from there? Well, of course, that is Disney, the Disneyland Resort and the Disneyland Park.
And they're refurbishing Indiana Jones.
They
and the
are.
Temple of...
In fact, again, I want to remind folks that
Eyes of Mara? What's the name of it?
I think it's officially the Indiana Jones Adventure.
Oh, okay.
I want to say the extendo name is Indiana Jones and, the Eyes of Mara. But Brian and I are dating ourselves because we closely followed this project as it was coming up out of the ground in the mid 90s or early 90s, opening March of 1995. In fact, Brian, you were there on opening day, right?
I was there. That was the 25th anniversary of Disney. And every day, and I had a pass, every day if you'd go there, they'd give you a new playing card of what opened on that day.
Okay.
So if you went on August 9th, you got the Haunted Mansion. If you went on, et cetera, et cetera. So on this day, they gave us, of course, the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. And it was raining. It was pouring. It was like the one day it rains in California, and it rains in this day.
Okay.
And, of course, I bought my $5 Mickey Mouse poncho. Everybody yellow. 3 hours I was in line for the first time I saw it. And then I also got the card, the card where you decipher all
that's right, because it was sponsored by AT&T.
AT&T.
That's
Choose
right.
wisely.
There we go.
And
all of
it was the best, and it still is the best ride you will ever be on, because nothing had been like this ever.
First of all, I want to clarify here, not the 25th anniversary, 40th anniversary.
40th anniversary, okay.
But again, you are right about the collector cards, very highly sought. And I have to grill Brian here because again, he got to ride it on opening day when all of the effects work. And they had, in the earliest iteration of this attraction, they had effects that some of them only ran for weeks, right?
Yeah, and then sometimes it would fix it. The main thing and the best thing, oh man, I scared so many friggin' people. I don't know how I discovered it, but I saw this pole, and it was a bamboo pole, and I saw that somebody bumped into it and it moved. I'm going, oh, that's got to be something. So I hit it, and the roof goes,
oh, that's
and people
right.
in front of me ran forward. People in back of me ran back. It was a riot. It was hilarious. So I had to go back and do it again. And I would look around and see the best people to do it to. And I did it too. And I'm a when it comes to things like that.
Well, wasn't it that the spikes literally came out of the ceiling?
And it just came down. But the ceiling actually moved.
Yeah.
And then you saw the spikes. And then the guy in the well. And you'd pull the rope, and then you'd break something, and then he would be upset, and everything worked. Now in it they use projection to show what door you go through, but before they had a false front that would move.
Yes.
Each time.
In fact, what Brian's alluding to, in 2013, they did put projection mapping into the attraction, which, by the way, very effective, great new effect to add. But what I'm kind of referring to is when this thing first opened, there was one point in the ride where your troop carrier is going by, and supposedly you literally see the ceiling cave in front of you. You see a chunk of the ceiling fall out and crash to the ground.
You're on the bridge.
Yep.
And you hear this, and you see this white sheet just come down and burst into pieces, and then smoke coming from that.
But again, here's what's ingenious about this effect. What you saw, what your eye told you, is, oh my God, the temple is falling apart. Look, the ceiling fell out. No, it's a flash frozen piece of ice. And again, it was a piece of equipment the Imagineers put into this building.
An ice machine.
Yeah, but what was killer about it is it would fall, and again, not everybody got to see this. I want to say it was 1 out of every 5 troop carriers, maybe 1 out of every 10 troop carriers. But there's that big open room where maybe you're seeing it from right next to you, or maybe you're seeing it across the way as you're going in and out of the the various tunnels or that sort of thing.
Right.
But here's the thing. The ice lands on a heated grate. So the very thing that Brian was just alluded to, you saw smoke come up. It's like, no, it's the ice melting, because now the water, it melts, it's fed back up into the ice machine there, and it's a sort of endless cycle for this wonderful physical effect.
Now, I heard that it stopped working because the machine that they use was not stainless steel. and it got rusted after about 5 years or so.
I did not know that. Well, the other effect that I always enjoyed was just before the dart room.
The rat room.
Well, yes, no, that's it exactly. The you passed this mist curtain that they had projected this image of rats out on like a branch that then seemed to be jumping off just as your troop carrier was coming through. And the way it was described to me is there was the effect from Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. When they turned on the cloning machine and the theater was flooded with little baby white mice. And then, there was a piece of wire that it was quickly put out from inside the seat that the audience member was on and flicked back and forth between your legs.
Tail, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly that. Supposedly they had the same effect in the troop carrier. First you saw the image of the rats coming out of the branch and it seemingly jumping into your troop carrier, and then suddenly you felt the rat tail.
Now, you didn't get to write it right away?
By the time I made it back to Anaheim, this would have been July of 95. I was there for the actual 40th anniversary where they did the whole, do you remember the castle time capsule? And
yep.
I was there for that, and already by that point, people were talking about, Indy's having some issues because it's so complicated. There's so much state-of-the-art technology in this thing.
And then, of course, the big snake.
Yes.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
There we go.
I only heard that line once. Mm-hmm. Usually it's something else, but only once, and I was always waiting to hear that snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? And I didn't hear it. I only heard it once or twice. Mm-hmm. But it was one of the most remarkable, and you felt that boulder was coming at you. Mm-hmm. I did not know you were actually standing still and everything else was moving, and you just went down. The technology was just incredible when I first saw it.
Look, anybody who's been on the attraction knows that Indy doesn't quite sound like himself, and that was because Disney bobbled getting Harrison Ford to actually voice the character for the attraction. The story, as it was always explained to me, was that they were after Harrison Ford. He was originally supposed to be the voice of Kershak, the silverback in the Disney animated version of Tarzan, which came out, 99?
Yeah.
Harrison Ford had agreed to do the role. They had brought him into the studio, and he was starting to record the very first tracks for this character in Tarzan, and they figured, well, we got him here. Let's get him to record the voice for the attraction, the Indiana Jones adventure. And evidently he was initially amenable to the idea, but Ford made it clear to his representatives, like, look, I will voice the character for the attraction, but I don't want to take part in the advertising. I don't want to be associated with, I don't want to be now at Disneyland, and evidently there was a miscommunication. And basically what happened is Harrison Ford came into the studio for his second or third session on Kershak, and they had sent the material, and remember, Indy doesn't say a whole lot in the attraction. There's only, like, as you mentioned, there's 3 or 4 different lines that he rotates through in each of the scenes his character's in, and he's only in like 2 and 3 moments in this ride, right?
Why'd you have to look in the eyes? Why did you have to look in the eyes?
There we go. Okay. But what happened was
look in the eyes, didn't you?
He opens the manila folder, and on top of everything he's going to be recording for the day is the commercial for Indiana Jones Adventure. And he loses it in the booth, just to the effect of, I told you guys I wouldn't do this. And, literally it's sitting here on the top of the pile, and that's it, I'm leaving. And he walked out, and he not only, of course, didn't do the voice for the Indiana Jones attraction, but he left Tarzan, which is why Kershak eventually wound up being voiced by Lance Henriksen.
Now, the little twist that I heard for this story, exactly the same, except that what was the script was Remember the Super Bowl that year? They
God,
did. They
right.
did for the halftime. They did this whole Indiana Jones thing, and he said he didn't want to be a part of that.
And God, you're right.
That was
there we go.
On top was his dialogue from that
For the
thing.
Super Bowl. Oh my God, you're right. You're right. No, Brian has the real version of the story, folks. Oh my God, you're right. But again, to circle back to, you were just saying about snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? According to some photos that have been taken backstage at Disney, which bad thing to do, folks, don't do that. But thanks for sharing them on social media. Evidently, out on the back door of Indiana Jones, folks just sighted the new snake going into the Indiana Jones adventure, which is to replace the large animatronic snake that has not worked there for years. So at least that much we know. That
wasn't that picture though taken from the monorail, so it's not really somebody sneaking back there taking pictures.
This is true, but again, it's kind of a gray area. Okay, so we don't have a date yet for the return of Indiana Jones at Disneyland Park. All that Disney is saying is that it will return for spring of 2023, which, again, if you know Disney, folks, spring of 2023 could be June 20th. So we will let you know more when we hear more. Now to pivot. Did you see the story about Mutt Williams?
I have not heard about this. I knew that somebody said, was Mangold the one who said something?
He supposedly alluded to this, that as part of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, we won't see Shia LaBeouf, but we will find out the fate of that character, who obviously was introduced in 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
What about Marion? Is Marion involved in this, or?
I don't know what to tell you.
Don't tell me anything. What am I, crazy? I won't even watch the trailer, and I'm asking you to give things away. No, not gonna happen.
So now, all right, to pivot, what's going on with on the television side of Lucasfilm, and we are 7 episodes into Willow, which, by the way, you were mentioning you saw Willow 3 times in theaters. I want to say
it wasn't when I saw Willow, it wasn't a great movie. It was a good movie, and it was a fun movie, and it was enjoyable. And when it first was in the theater, I went to see it 3 times. I went one with my brother, one with my parents, and one with a girl I knew. And it was very enjoyable, but it didn't do all that well. It did what? Well, I read 2 things. On Box Office Mojo, it said it only did $58 million. But on Wikipedia, it says it made $148 million on a $35 million budget. So it basically broke even. But there was never a sequel.
Well, there were the books.
Right. The books were the sequel. You're right.
But at the same time, what's kind of interesting is that, of course, when they decided to do the limited series, when Jonathan Kasdan took on this project, they immediately sort of turned their backs on the books and tried to do something different. I will say this much. Just this past weekend, in preparation for the Looking at Lucasfilm that Brian and I are doing today, I watched Willow, the film, for the first time in years. And I also made a point of, there's a wonderful 10-minute long featurette that was created in 2013 for the Blu-ray release of Willow, where Ron Howard talks about the deleted scenes from and what was fascinating is clearly Jonathan Kasdan is familiar with what fell off the table for Willow, the film, because these elements got reimagined, revisited with Willow, the limited series. Like, for example, the most recent episode, the episode 7, The Shattered Sea, we have the Mudmander, that wonderful sort of practical animatronic that is pulling the silt sleigh and I'm blanking the name of the character who is bonding with this creature. The prince. There we go.
Yeah.
But what's kind of interesting is if you look at these deleted scenes for Willow the movie, there's the scenes where Willow has to go out to the island where Finn Rizal has been banished. She's been left there in the form of the bushy-tailed muskrat or whatever it is. Bushy-tailed possum.
And he's in the rowboat, and
he's in the rowboat.
He's not doing well.
Well, but that's what's interesting. That initially, you come to this. Willow comes to this seemingly abandoned village, but as he goes to take the rowboat to go out to the island, you see this one boy wade out into the water and sort of warns Willow, you don't want to do this, you step away. And then the boy dives into the water. And Willow takes the rowboat, continues out into the water. And then at one point, the water starts to get rough. A storm rises up. And then the boy from the village pops up next to the boat, only now he's got a mouthful of like monster's teeth. And he's got sort of gill slits and well, not to give it away, but the character is known as Fish Boy. And then he goes down again. And then they spent weeks shooting the scene where suddenly, and Ron Howard alludes to it, suddenly I have great sympathy for Steven Spielberg and Jaws, because I'm trying to make an animatronic killer fish attack Willow in his rowboat. And it's 1988 film animatronics. If you watch Willow today, Willow the movie, what's fascinating is it was like the cusp of what they could do with morphing at that time, right?
Right. Isn't this the first in film that the morphing was when
that's exactly
the witch turns into these all different characters?
No, that's it exactly. So
animals.
You can see what they were, and remember, we are years out from the sort of work that ILM could do with, say, Jurassic Park or that sort of thing. But the Fish Boy monster version of Fish Boy is done as an animatronic, and it is just not very convincing. And in the end, they cut the scene, and in fact, and it's kind of a bone of contention with Willow fans, because remember when Willow is being sent off on his journey, we see the High Aldwin hand him 3 acorns.
Right.
The one that turn everything to stone, and in the movie we only see him use. 2. Yeah, and it's like, well, what happened there? So you see Fish Boy becomes mutated and winds up back in Willow. The limited series is the Mudmander, only a really great animatronic, a really, great, shows what we can do today. Likewise, if we look at how Princess Kit, is looking for her dad, is out looking for Mad Mardigan, there's actually a storyline in the original Willow, the movie, where Queen Sorsha ends up, yes, her mother is Queen Bavmorda, but we also find out that she had a dad, the very kind-hearted king of Tirisleen. Right. And do you remember when they actually get to Tirisleen in Willow, the movie, and there were all these people inside the castle who seemed to be embedded in monoliths, sort of crystalline monoliths?
Yeah, wasn't there an old man in there?
There was an old man. That is Sorsha's dad, who, by the way, in the very, 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 very end of the film, is there in the scene where we see Willow climb on the tiny Shetland pony and ride off. We see Sorsha, Mad Mardigan, and then there's a man with a long white beard and a crown standing right next to them. That's her dad, who got pulled out of the stove. But again, it's Jonathan knew the film and knew that these elements had fallen off the table, and just sort of revisited the ideas and wrote them into the limited series. But at the same time, that there's wonderful little departures, wonderful little bends on. I mean, for example, the trolls in the original movie are just fierce, horrible creatures that don't speak well at all, whereas
they're just monsters. But in this, they're basically Monty Python.
Well, no, very much so. I mean, members of middle management, what Lord Saris and his brother Falcon, but evidently because of whatever the liquid that is being mined and refined there, the crone has revealed to the trolls that if they drink it, they become enlightened, they become intelligent, and that's why they're as well spoken as they are. So I have to ask, you've seen now these most recent 3. We are coming up on our season 1 finale, and hopefully there will be a season 2.
I'm digging it. I'm digging it so much. It's family friendly. It's very organic. It's funny. What I mean by organic is it works from the movie, because you had a Laura Dannon, and she's supposed to take care of the queen or destroy the queen, but she doesn't. Who does is Willow by mistake. It's a mistake. So there's somebody else. There's another person that was guiding the queen, and that was who they're now calling the crone.
Okay.
And they put that element in there to give us the quest. So we've got a fellowship, we've got a quest, and we've got Easter eggs in there, and we have cameos by Kevin Pollak. He's doing the brownie Rule, yeah, and his daughter, and it was hilarious. But it's so funny in the movie. They basically were doing the Frenchman from Monty Python, the Holy Grail, weren't they?
We already have one. Yes, that like. Well, and it's kind of interesting you bring that up, because again, you mentioned Kevin Pollak as Rule, and of course, we should mention that Rick Overton played Friend Jean.
Yeah, and he wasn't in it.
Well, now what's kind of interesting, and I'm not at liberty to share everything I know in regard to. Again, I got some of this info from our good friend Drew Taylor, who actually got to sit down with Jonathan Kazan and talk about what the plans were, what they were going to do, and so on and so forth. And because of the COVID protocols, there were a number of folks who just did not make the trip over to New Zealand where this was shot.
No, Wales. So it was filmed in Wales.
Oh, my mistake. I didn't make the trip over to Wales. But what ended up happening was, and face it, in the case of evidently Rick Overton, who is still with us, by the way. I want to say he's 64 or 68.
Yeah.
But some folks just did not make the journey because of health issues or the COVID protocol. So that's why I kind of hope that we do get a season 2, because...
Oh, yeah, we'll see more of these people.
There we go.
Well, there's also some cute, neat things like the prince, Kit's brother, his name is Eric.
Yep.
Who was named after Mad Mardigan's warrior friend. The guy with the beard. His name was Eric.
That's right. Yes.
And then also, they threw you off at the beginning because remember they were saying, she's being well hidden, and they cut to Jade and Kit fighting, and they take off the helmet, and there's Jade with his bright red hair. So you're going, oh, that's got to be Allura. That's got to be her, right? And then you don't find out later that she's Dove. Well, I'm not going to give anything away right now, but you find out later she's somebody else, and just to throw us off. I mean, they put little things in there as red herrings, even though it's not a mystery so much, but just as like, this is who you think it is, but it's not. Look over here, sleight of hand. And also, when Kit hears the voice of her father, did you know who did the voice? Because Val can't talk anymore. So it's actually Joanne Whaley's son with Val Kilmer, Jack Kilmer.
Oh.
Yeah, so he does the voice, because I thought they were doing some like recording kind of tricks and stuff, but it's him. And Jack is a big actor in his own part. He's been in a lot of things.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, that's cool.
And then, of course, they even put Jean Marsh in there. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see her. Is she? But they showed flashbacks of her. But let's talk about possibly the greatest character in the show so far. That just blows you away and gives humor, drama, just everything you want is Christian Slater. I think he steals basically the whole, even though he's in one episode, he steals the whole series.
If you look at the fact that when we meet, Val Kilmer's Mad Mardigan character, we meet him at the crossroads and he's a crow's cage.
He's in a crow's cage.
And so how do we meet Allagash, who is, of course, pretending to be Mad Mardigan to throw off the trolls, but he's in a crow's cage. So given the way they take him out of the story where he's battling a slew of trolls and you see him disappear into that heap of bodies, and it's just sort of like, oh, I enjoyed that guy. I enjoyed that performance. I want to see him again. I hope this happens.
When they're fighting, when he and Borman are fighting over the chainmail or whatever they're fighting over, and what I loved about it, and what I think this was a good choice, is it was in the background. You didn't focus on their fight. You just showed them fighting, which was like, two kids, fighting over Lego or something. And then everybody got back, everybody is getting back together. So you're hearing their stories, and they're ignoring the two of them, these two grown men who are older than everybody else. They're ignoring them as they're acting like children, and they're just waiting for the fight to be over so they can go on and do what they need to do. I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was a great choice. My only problem I have with this, as I had with Kenobi and Andor, is episodical. I think there are some things that you could that are made to be binged, and I know they want the water cooler thing. This isn't a water cooler show, but look what happened to Wednesday. When Wednesday was shown on Netflix, and so many people watched it, that's what they use as marketing to get more people to watch it. Like, look at this. All these 400 million people watch it. Now you have to watch it. And I think that's what they should have done with Willow, because you have to gear up again. And adventure is not an easy thing to get into. You can't just turn it on and then, be geared up and just accept everything that's going on. You have to gradually get into it. So if I'm going to watch this again, and I will binge it. I'll do, maybe 2 days. And I think it will play better that way.
I'm an old terrestrial television guy, so I can tune in again next week. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I would argue on the heels of the success of The Mandalorian or The Book of Boba Fett,
but those are all episodical shows. They are not continuing stories or like one movie like this is. And most TV had, that maybe they had a background story that was, but each episode had a beginning and middle and end. Like especially like Hill Street Blues, and I mean even The Fugitive. It was every episode he met more different people, and then the next episode he met another people and helped them out, and etc. But there was always the storyline of the man without an arm, coming after him. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, these are movies. These are 8-hour movies, and I think in a way they should be shown that way.
Speaking of movies, I'm dearly hoping that with Willow, the limited series, that we are not in a Star Wars Solo situation where we have a story that ends that seems to set up sequels, and then we don't get the sequels. I realize that supposedly there is a Lando Calrissian limited series supposedly in the works for Disney Plus, which maybe will pick up where Solo left off, but we haven't heard anything about Willow 2.
No, not yet. But of course, a Wednesday was out for a month, 2 months before they announced a couple days ago that it's going to be a season 2.
Okay, that's an excellent point.
Same thing with Sandman. Remember Sandman? I mean, everybody's going, it does so well. Why aren't you saying? And I read an article of a reporter who was like, Netflix, you can't do this to people because Because now, why should I waste my time watching something if there's not going to be another season?
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up because, of course, what we've begun to see, in fact, that the trades are all over this past week. For example, Inside Job, the animated series at Netflix that Alex Hirsch of Gravity Falls helped create, got renewed for a second season. They were working on it, and they just pulled the plug in mid-production on the second season. I mean, mind you, that is not the case with Bad Batch. They seem to be committed to carrying this show forward. Speaking of which, though, what did you think of the first 2 episodes of this one, season 2?
To me, they were just a continuation of what's been going on, which means they're excellent. Mm-hmm. Because I think Omega is one of the greatest characters ever portrayed in the fact that she's a teenage girl, but she's also, however old, clones are at this time, and she's very smart, she's very wise. She doesn't have the attitude a teenager has, and the Bad Batch are more kids than she is. She's a lot of time the voice of reason, and I'm really digging that part of it. I'm not too crazy that they're working for Rhea Perlman, but I know there's got to be something like that.
I am so embarrassed. How long have I been watching this show and only just figured out that Sid, the Trandoshan that the clones are working for, is being voiced by Rhea Perlman. And
because you don't watch credits.
I do, but the problem is I watched the show on my laptop. And, and you know what they do. You know how they, you get to the credits and they suddenly, because you watch this, why don't you? And the credits suddenly become the size of a postage stamp. You also pointed out that who else is doing voice work on the show that I didn't know about?
Wanda Sykes.
There we go.
Yeah, the other, the pirate. So that should be interesting. You're going to see more of her. But yeah, I just think it's a Valentine to Star Wars fans. It's everything the Star Wars fans really dig about Star Wars. And it really it took characters that didn't even exist until the end of Clone Wars and turned them into a whole different, it was a continuation of Clone Wars, but now it's its whole different animal. But see, I don't know, maybe I'm the kind of person that I just love everything. The animation still bugs me a little bit, especially
I like this style.
Yeah, but especially when you see something like Visions, and then also even Tales of the Jedi, where they smooth it out a little bit. I mean, you can't go wrong with anything. But we've got to get back to the other characters. Where is the sniper guy and all that? I mean, there's how many going to be? 16 for this season, or
I want to say yes.
Okay,
but I actually, to be honest. You were mentioning, how much you enjoyed the young clone.
Nova.
Think about when Bad Batch first started out in May of 2021. Sort of a prequel to Star Wars Rebels. Starts off with the Battle of Kalar, just as Order 66 goes down. And we see a 14-year-old Caleb Dune, a Force-sensitive human, who's the Padawan to Jedi Master Depa Billababa. Just manages to escape as the clones turn on his master. And Billababa buys her Padawan time with her life. But it's just, what intrigues me is that Caleb Dune goes into hiding, changes his name to Kanan Jarrus, and exchanges his blue lightsaber for a blaster and stays in hiding till Hera Sadana recruits him to come join her proto-rebel cell, which then brings us to Star Wars Rebels. So we now have Star Wars Ahsoka going into production. We've got Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. We now have Natasha Lee Borduzzo, who's now playing Sabine Wren. We have Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who's been hired to play Hera Saldana. And then, of course, we have Iman Esfandi, who's playing Ezra Bridger.
But and don't we have Thrall? Isn't he played by The Voice?
They have not confirmed that yet.
They haven't confirmed it.
It makes me crazy. But what if Nova, we're seeing all of these, for example, in season 1, we got to see Ren, well, again, we saw Kanan Jarrus or Caleb
Right.
Dune. We got to meet, was it Hera Zathana we got to meet? Yes, it's a 14-year-old girl. And so it's like, what's to stop them with Ahsoka Tano? Wouldn't it be interesting to see Nova?
Well, more than that, because Filoni and Favreau love putting. I mean, that's why we have an Ahsoka series, is because they put her in Mandalorian, and people were just so excited to see her live action. And and then Morrison, what's his name, Tamaru Morrison. I mean, he could play one of the clones. He can play one of the Bad Batch, or he can play them all. But could he? Because do they look like the clones? I mean, they're a little bit.
That's the whole point of the Bad Batch. The notion that
So they could use other people. But yeah, I would definitely love to see her. And how old would she be now in Ahsoka? It takes place 10 years before New Hope, and then that took place.
Well, look, wouldn't Ahsoka survived Order 66? And how old was she?
Well, yeah, but she's not Force sensitive, is she? They would go after her, and 6-6
Well, no.
wasn't
I'm
to take
I'm
out
trying
the Bad Batch.
I'm just trying to.
Oh, when it happened. Oh, yeah.
Age equivalent,
Right. But wasn't Order 66 30 years? No.
Well, remember, the Bad Batch is set in between tail end of Revenge of the Sith and the beginning of A New Hope, which is supposedly 18 years.
So Luke was born
Yep.
when the Order 66 came out. And how old is Luke in New Hope?
Supposedly 18.
Okay. So Nova is what, 12?
Maybe.
So she'll be 30 now?
Obviously, there is going to be some looking at Lucasfilm listener who is better at math or has better info than we do.
They're screaming at the podcast right now.
There we go. So if you could reach out and inform these two 60-year-old idiots, I would appreciate that. Speaking of which, though, folks, if you're screaming at the podcast at this point because it's so damn long, out of respect for other people's time, I think we should shut this one down. So tell you what, folks, till Brian and I do a new one of these, which will be 2 weeks from today. Brian, can you tell folks where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on, I'm still on the Twitters, at Geek with Children, and children is spelled CHILDRN. And where can we find you, Jim?
Well, let's see. You can find me still on Twitter as well. Likewise, you can find us on Instagram, also as Jim Hill Media, and then on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And Brian and I look forward to seeing all of you folks there. Also want to remind you, we have a couple of other shows we have here at Jim Hill Media. We, of course, have Disney Dish, which I do with Len Testa. We alluded to earlier, Fine Tuning, which I do with Drew Taylor, who, by the way, has his own wonderful podcast, Light the Fuse. Also want to mention Marvel Us Disney, which I do with Aaron Adams. Aaron has has just launched a brand new podcast of his own, 32nd Street, I want to...
Yeah, it's called 32nd Street.
Which looks into the world of advertising, which, by the way, we touched on a little bit earlier today ourselves. Thank you, folks, for indulging Brian and I. Hopefully, this was worth the wait. And like I said, we'll be back with a brand new Looking at Lucasfilm in 2 weeks' time. Thanks again so much for listening, folks. And Mr. Gaughan and I will be back soon.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.